There are 5 layers to understanding Capricorn deeply and completely using ancient esoteric knowledge that I'm going to break down for you in this video. My name is Aleena and welcome to Promethea Astrology. The first layer to understanding Capricorn is the planetary ruler Saturn. It's important to start with the planetary ruler because every zodiac sign is essentially the embodiment of its planetary ruler. Ancient people understood the planets in astrology to be like the kings or the gods of these different regions that are the zodiac signs. So in the ancient conception, in this framework, the zodiac is actually like its own world. It's like the landscape of the sky world. And the planets are like the gods or the kings or the leaders in these regions. So you can think of Saturn as like the leader of Capricorn. God Saturn in the Greek mythology, he would be Kronos, lord of time. So Saturn is like the head of this kingdom, and the leadership sets the culture. So we need to understand Saturn's nature to really understand Capricorn. Saturn is not only lord of time, but also lord of things like discipline, constraint, restraint, things like hardship and punishment, things that take time and hard work. I think of Saturn as the archetype of the stern, punishing father. Saturn governs things like taking things away or lessening deprivation, and also structure and boundaries. Lots of fairly difficult things. In ancient astrology, Saturn was considered a malefic or one of the more challenging planets. But of course, this is also extremely constructive and important and integral to anything functioning in the world and in our life. We must have boundaries. We must have discipline. Things must take time. There are limitations, and all of this is extremely powerful to really integrate. And this is the superpower of Capricorn, is being this very disciplined, very serious, very long-term thinking type of zodiac sign. So that's the culture of this zodiac sign. And I do have an entire video where I spend a great amount of time diving into the nature of Saturn. So if you are Capricorn, then I do recommend, especially if you're Capricorn Rising, but all of the things, to really look into this nature of Saturn. In the Babylonian context, to go even back further than the Greeks, thousands of years ago, to the Babylonians, Saturn was lord of irrigation. And I find this to be fascinating because we can think of Saturn as structure that is containing things, containment, boundaries, and irrigation, of course, channels water. There's boundaries. Water is formless. Water requires a container. Water doesn't exist without one. Water is just completely fluid, so it needs containment, it needs structure. And both of Saturn's signs, Capricorn and Aquarius, neither of them are water signs, but both of them have water in their symbol. So Capricorn is the sea goat, and then Aquarius is the water bearer, although Capricorn is an earth sign and Aquarius is an air sign. So this is very fascinating to me because both of these Saturnian zodiac signs have this element of water, although it's not necessarily their domain. So there's something about Saturn that is the force of containing this life force energy that is water. So even though elements of water is more connected to things like spirituality, healing, mysticism, the emotions, even though that's all water and Capricorn is not that, there's this element where, because it is a Saturn ruled sign, so oriented towards long-term thinking and discipline, that Capricorn often does kind of need to be tapped into some kind of spiritual root. Often this is very difficult for Capricorns, especially when they're younger, to really integrate and allow them to just lean into that for themselves. Usually there can be some kind of wounding around this from a younger age or some kind of challenges, but ultimately in the end, with time, I find that Capricorn people often do have some kind of deep spiritual root that grounds them in their motivation to create this long-term big picture thing that they're working for so hard to actualize and to build, so that they can have this legacy, that they can build something to last into the future. The next layer, the second piece of understanding Capricorn in this framework, is to really understand that Capricorn is an earth sign and understand what earth means in astrology. And I do also have an entire video dedicated to understanding just that. what are the earth signs and what does earth mean? So broadly, earth in astrology is related to things like reality, the material world. It can be things like food, or of course like literal earth, soil, plants, mountains, anything like that. Also things that are practical, that make sense, what's in the here and now. Earth is a very stable, very grounded element. And because Capricorn is an earth sign, it's also a feminine sign. All earth signs are feminine signs. All water signs are feminine signs. And then the air and fire signs are masculine. So I cap those together. So Capricorn is the earth version of Saturn, and then Aquarius is the air version of Saturn. So Capricorn then is very interested in building things, constructing physical material systems, things that make sense and are practical in the real world. Capricorn generally wants to do things that make sense and that are realistic and that are grounded in what is happening here and now. With this nature of Saturn, there's also this sense with Capricorn of knowing that scarcity is real. Saturn also governs scarcity. And so Capricorn is very interested in planning, in creating systems and structures and planning and thinking into the future in order to prevent scarcity from becoming a problem. Capricorn is aware of the hardships of the world, that suffering and scarcity and all these things exist, and therefore we must work hard to prepare for the future so that we don't need to suffer, because we understand that these hard things are coming and we can prepare for that. And that is the wisdom of Capricorn. And because this third component here, the third component to understanding Capricorn, the third layer, is the quadruplicity. So quadruplicity is whether or not a sign is cardinal, fixed, or mutable. So a cardinal sign is the beginning of a season, mutable is the end of a season, and then fixed is the middle of a season. So Capricorn is a cardinal sign, comes at the beginning of winter. So the cardinal signs, I also have a whole video dedicated to just understanding cardinal and the cardinal nature if you want to check that out. The cardinal signs are interested in initiating things, beginning of a season, getting things started. And I really think of the key word for cardinal signs as influence. There's this drive to influence their environment in some way. In which way? It depends on the element. So Capricorn is cardinal earth. So Capricorn really wants to influence the environment in this material way by building practical structures, earthly realm material things, businesses, systems that will make sense in our current reality. This is the nature of being cardinal, of wanting to really create something, to construct something, to build something. Cardinal earth, I think of like raising mountains up. And for this reason, I consider Capricorn to be like the archetype of the businessman, very interested in earthly material things. Business and commerce is very much what is here now and makes sense, the material exchange and what is practical and how do we help people and what's going on and what is needed right now. This is the earthly realm, but then interested in constructing something and building something and growing something. And this is the nature of being cardinal. And because of Saturn's influence as the planetary ruler, Capricorn tends to be interested in building businesses, building systems, constructing things for the future. Saturn is very much oriented towards time, long-term thinking. How can we build something meaningful to last? Capricorn's not just trying to make something happen because it needs to be busy. No, Capricorn is interested in strategy, vision, thinking. Capricorn is able to move slow and able to really be disciplined and work hard and step back in order to think about those big picture things, to be like, where is the direction? Where are we going with this? Why are we going there? What makes sense? We have to think into the future. Is this going to make sense in 10 years? How are we going to feel in 10 years? What's going to be going on? How can we make sure we're adapting to that? How can we make sure we're preventing against the things that we can foresee coming up? How can we be strategic about what we're building? And these systems, this is all Saturn's discipline, responsibility, structures. And when we think about Capricorn as an earth signs are always opposite to water signs. So earth and water have this opposite nature. Saturn as a planet is also always opposite to one of the luminaries. So the luminaries are either the sun or the moon. So Capricorn is opposite to Cancer. Saturn opposite to the moon. Cancer is ruled by the moon. And so Capricorn and Cancer have opposite natures. Cancer is very interested in nurturing, healing, supporting other people, very much wants to caretake. Saturn and Capricorn on the other side is a little bit more cold. Saturn as a function says no to things. It's about denying, depriving. The moon, on the other hand, is very much saying yes, and especially saying yes to other people. Yes, I want to support you. Yes, how can I fold you into this? How can I take care of you? What do you need? I want to provide for you. And Capricorn has its own way of wanting to provide, for sure. Capricorn will be thinking more, how can I build this long-term business, this big thing that I'm working on so that we can support you in the long run. But as far as one-on-one interactions, the emotional experience of being around Capricorn is much more of distance and almost denial. So Capricorn is very comfortable setting boundaries, saying no, saying this is what I need to work on. I'm focusing on this right now. And it's not necessarily to be cruel. This is just something that is quite comfortable for Capricorn. They understand that part of building things to last and achieving your goals is that need to say no in certain situations and set boundaries and have discipline over your time and energy. The fourth layer of understanding the zodiac signs with this ancient esoteric framework is to understand Capricorn's symbol. So like I mentioned, Capricorn is the sea goat. The goat, right, is already in the mountains. Capricorn is an earth sign, and goats famously are very good at navigating rough terrain. They can be in these rocky, harsh environments and just race up the mountain anyway. They have this great agility to navigate difficult landscapes, and this too is a nature of Capricorn. The goat will get where it's going. Quite athletic, quite dexterous, quite energetic, especially in the mountains, able to really ascend. And so Capricorn has this reputation of needing to be the best, go the distance, go the extra mile. This is the nature of the goat. And as I mentioned with Saturn's relationship to water, the sea goat, right, this mystical creature was able to traverse both land and sea. So there's this way that Capricorn can be connected to this more spiritual realm. And it's not necessarily the home of the sea goat. The sea goat is comfortable in the ocean and able to do that, but it is still an earth sign. It is still of the earth. So where it is able to dip the toes and connect to that mystical source that is the reason for even bothering to strive this hard and work this hard to achieve what they need to achieve, it's still a little bit otherworldly for Capricorn. And then the fifth component of understanding Capricorn is to understand the seasonal component, the beginning of winter. Capricorn starts with the winter solstice. So the seasonal component is especially relevant and important if you use the tropical zodiac, which most Western astrologers do. If you use the sidereal zodiac, then Capricorn is not actually correlated with the beginning of winter, but rather with where the constellation Capricorn is in the sky. So because of the precession of the equinoxes, Capricorn, if you look at the horizon during Capricorn rising time, when Capricorn is rising up over the eastern horizon, that used to point at the direction of the constellation Capricorn. However, now the signs have moved about almost a full zodiac sign from where they were at the establishment of the tropical zodiac. So now, instead of correlating Capricorn season to when the sun is passing over Capricorn constellation, now we use the tropical zodiac and instead correlate Capricorn season with the beginning of winter. And this makes a lot of sense because we are, in my opinion, probably more affected by the seasons, the equinoxes and the solstices, than we are by the constellations. And the whole fundamental philosophical foundation of astrology is that the moment that something comes into existence is extremely significant. So when the zodiac was conceptualized, this is like the birth chart of the zodiac, we would continue to look at that chart rather than where the zodiac is right now because of this philosophical premise that the origin of something is significant. So both because of that and also with the seasonal component, it makes sense to really tie in the seasons to the zodiac signs. So for Capricorn, beginning of winter, this is also related to that kind of scarcity thinking of, so we just finished the fall, we harvested all the crops, and now it's time to make sure that we are going to make it through this winter. We need to make sure we're rationing, that we're having enough food to make it through this, because this is it. So we need to be structured, we need to be disciplined, and we need to restrain ourselves in order to make it through to the other side. And there's also this coldness of the beginning of winter that Capricorn can be known for sometimes, this earthly, grounded reality principle that is not necessarily, again, meant to be harmful or harsh or anything for Capricorn. It's just, this is what is real. This is just the real situation that we need to just deal with. And it's not even an emotional thing. It's just what is happening right now. This is the reality. Here we go. And then a little bonus for you. So another thing that you can think about when we're understanding Capricorn and tying it back to these more ancient origins is that each zodiac sign also has a body part that it rules. So Capricorn governs the bones and the joints, also the teeth, things like that. So you can think about Saturn in this way too, where all of those things are kind of like the structure and the foundation for the body, the things that kind of hold it together. This is extremely important foundational stuff. It's not the most exhilarating or exciting or sexy part of the body, but it is sure important for having a solid structure to carry you around in. And so some other general things that you might experience with Capricorn is that they do tend to have this incredible work ethic, but it can also be kind of a work hard, play hard, where they also can sometimes tend to wild out a little bit and party after they're done with their hard work portion of their life. So then to get into Capricorn Sun, Moon, and Rising, the way we start to make predictions about people's personalities and character based on their astrology is by attributing some of these characteristics to the different psychological functions that the planets represent. So if you are a Capricorn Sun, then this would indicate kind of the nature of your mind. The Sun is like the mind, the ego, the persona. So this is maybe how people see you, how people perceive you. So a Capricorn Sun might be known for maybe being kind of serious, maybe a little bit cold, maybe really hardworking, maybe really on top of their shit, having it together, being disciplined, working hard, being structured, able to say no. All of those things might be things that you are known for, or it might be kind of like a mental discipline. So you might be very disciplined in your thinking. You might be very into things like meditation even, or ways to discipline the mind, habit tracking, anything like that. Taking the Capricorn hard work and discipline, but applying it into the ego, the persona, the mind, the mental stuff. The Sun can also represent the literal father and qualities inherited from the father. So sometimes Capricorn Sun people might have experienced particularly distant or punishing or difficulties regarding the father. Saturn is a challenging planet, so Saturn ruled signs and placements can tend to indicate hardship in that area. So for a Capricorn Sun, that would be the father, and potentially maybe having, again, a distant or kind of cold or punishing type of father, or absent even. Saturn can be distance, physical distance, as well as time, temporal distance. And so a Capricorn Sun might really identify with this work ethic and just having it together, building things, being that business person, even if it's not a literal business, but whatever it is that they are about it and making it happen. For a Capricorn Moon, so then the moon we consider the emotions, the physical body, the subconscious. So the moon is more of how you show up in private settings in relationships. So sometimes, especially if you're born during the day, you might not identify with the moon sign as much. It might be more of how you show up in private relationships one-on-one that maybe people don't know you for as well. But sometimes you might also not even recognize this nature in yourself because it's kind of unconscious. The moon is like the unconscious, but other people will probably see it in you if they're close to you. The moon is like how you are after dark, the way things come out at night when there aren't as many people, but those who are quite intimate around you, especially for the daytime, people born during the day. If you're born during night, then sometimes you might actually identify with the moon sign more. And the moon sign can be more of the ego and how you're seen, especially if you're born in full moon. If you're born at night under a full moon, then probably people will know you and see you for that moon nature, especially if that full moon is up overhead. But a Capricorn moon, so sometimes this can look like difficulties with the body, difficulties with digestion, or just kind of physical issues. Sometimes Saturn being, a more challenging thing and the moon being related to the body. Or it could look like very disciplined body. Maybe you have a lot of discipline about your food or what you eat or how you work out or whatever it is. The moon being the emotions, sometimes I find Capricorn moon people are a little bit, especially having hardships around expressing their emotions. They tend to feel extremely deeply, but also feel some kind of wounding around that. Like it's not okay. I shouldn't have intense feelings. Maybe they were told that in some way or just internalized that message somehow that they need to be strong and tough, but they actually do have this deep well of emotion. And this is that water nature of Saturn and Capricorn, the sea goat as well, where there is this connection to something really deep and mystical, especially for Capricorn moon people, as it is the feelings, as it is the subconscious. So there can be this deep yearning for that kind of spiritual transcendence in some way, or connection to the divine, or that watery essence, but usually also some kind of struggles around that when you're younger. But as you get older, often Capricorn people will tap into that more and feel more comfortable and solid in that as what grounds them to do the work that they want to do in the world. Then Capricorn moon as the mother. So sometimes Capricorn moon people might have had particularly distant or difficult mothers, or may have experienced their mothers mothering to be quite disciplinarian or punishing, or just kind of maybe emotionally distant, maybe coming off kind of cold or something like that. And sometimes this can be flipped. Sometimes the parents do flip for the Capricorn sun and moon, but usually that's the way it worked out. Can kind of depend on gender dynamics and other things in the home. That's just generally what happens. And not all of these things will be true for all people. Some people will identify more with some pieces than the others, and you'll have to kind of look at the whole chart to get a sense of the full personality and the scope of what's happening there. Then for Capricorn rising, this is the totality of who you are, mind, body, and soul. From an ancient perspective, this is really the you of yous. Sun is kind of like qualities inherited from the father, moon, qualities inherited from the mother. Sun changes signs every 4 weeks. Moon changes sign every 2.5 days. The rising sign changes every 2 hours. So this is the most unique point in the chart to you and really represents who you are underneath it all, notwithstanding the way that you were raised, the culture you come from, the time period. This is the archetype that is you. So everything that I have set up to this point will probably resonate with you in some way. Sometimes there can be just like an overall difficulty in the life to some degree, depending on where Jupiter is and what's happening there. This can just sometimes be people who become quite skilled and talented through overcoming obstacles. Oftentimes there's some kind of hardship, some kind of difficulties, and through hard work and perseverance, they're able to reach these incredible heights of acclaim and achievement, but it's usually through this overcoming of obstacles. Incredibly hardworking, incredibly disciplined, incredibly committed to their visions, long-term thinking, strategy, planning, building something to last for the future, for posterity, for a legacy. Sometimes it can be difficult for them to connect to the why, the spiritual kind of essence underneath of it, that transcendent function that drives their momentum forward to build what they want to build and actualize their potential. But eventually, especially after the Saturn return, especially after age 31 or so and beyond, certainly by the second Saturn return, age 60 or so, for sure, they tend to be connected to their purpose, and they move with purpose, they move with integrity, they move to build something to last for the future into posterity. And if you are Capricorn rising, I did also just put out a video about the Saturn return in Pisces. So if you were born between 1993 to 6 or something like that, or if you were born 30 years prior to that, then you have just finished your Saturn return. And I have a video specifically for Capricorn rising people with Saturn in Pisces, because you just finished that if you're watching this at the time of this recording, which is around March 2026. So Saturn just left Pisces about a month ago. So the Saturn return is over if you are about that age. So let me know in the comments if there's anything I missed, how this landed, things that you do or don't resonate with, and if you want to have some help unpacking what your astrology says about your life and your future. There's nothing that I'd rather do than talk to you about that. So I'll put a link in the description below if you want to learn more about readings with me. Thank you so much for being here. Be well.